How's it rockin', Dween Nation? This is the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, or share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Janoah Agudelo. And Week 16 is here, and we're going to predict some games, all 16 on the slate, starting with the Broncos and the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. Excited to dig into everything. We also got starts and sits of the week in our next episode, both predictions. And then we're going to look into the CFP and the college football playoffs. So we got a bunch of episodes coming up the stream. But before we dive into these predictions, how you doing, Janoah?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, I'm doing good. We are in the semifinals week of fantasy football playoffs. Here in a month, we'll be in NFL playoffs there, so we'll be transitioning real smoothly there, Justin. But, we got some picks to kind of, we got the script here. Everybody in Dween Nation knows that Justin and I have the script to the season. We have it in the vaults, down in the garage, deep down in the basement. It's buried, and we bring it out once a week so we can let you guys know what's going to happen. Not to mention, Justin and I are picking over 60% right on the season.
Oh, yeah.
We want to make it fair out there, so we're on fire here. So, hey, we got our starts and sits good last week pretty much, and we've been on fire. We've been on roll there, Justin. So I'm feeling this video lately.
Man.
Today.
I'm excited to get down with it, and you ready? You can count me down, and I can do my picks. See how I did.
I think you were at. I don't have a time on my phone left. Maybe it was like 1:30. I'll start you off. When you're ready.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right, I was 12-4 last week. Gonna do better this week. We start with Thursday night, as I mentioned. Broncos at Chargers. After a tough loss last week, I think the Chargers bounce back due to some good coaching, and they get the victory at home. Then we go to Saturday football. We got the Chiefs and the Texans. Mahomes is going to play, so I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs to win that game. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Baltimore gets to split because Pittsburgh won the first game. Baltimore wins, moving to the Sunday slate. Giants at Falcons. We get Michael Penix's first start of his young NFL career, and I have them winning as well. Then we got Detroit at Chicago. I think Detroit bounces back. I know no Montgomery, and I know that they're going to be outside in Chicago, but I think Detroit plays very well. Then we got Cleveland at Cincinnati. I got the Bengals to win with DTR starting for the Browns, which is yuck. Then we got Tennessee at Indianapolis. I got Indianapolis winning. The Rams at the Jets. This one I think is going to be closer than we think, but I have the Rams pulling it out. Then we got Philadelphia at Washington to give me the Philadelphia Eagles. Arizona at Carolina. I mean, this one's a tough one too, and I think I'm going to go with Carolina. Arizona's just so rough. I know they won pretty convincingly last week. I'm going to flip it. I'm going back with Arizona. Then Minnesota at Seattle. I'm going to go with wow, this one's a tough one too, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks to get this victory. And then we got New England at Buffalo. Jaguars at Vegas Raiders. I got the Jaguars. San Francisco at Miami. I'm going to go with the 49ers. Tampa at Dallas. I'm going with the Buccaneers. And Monday night, the Saints and the Packers. I'm going with the Packers.
All right, Justin, 141 there. And you know what, Justin? While listening to you take your kind of jot down your picks there, I kind of realized this might be like upset weekend here, like the biggest potential upsetting weekends. We'll get to that in a second. I'll go ahead and do my picks. Yeah. And I think we're going to have a lengthy discussion on these games because it is semifinals week, but I think there's just a lot of storyline to it. But go ahead when you're ready. I'll be ready.
All right, I'll count you down. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, well, we go to Thursday night where we're in Los Angeles. It's the Broncos and the Chargers. Give me the Broncos. They're on fire. Chargers are struggling a little bit. They don't really have an identity offensively. They don't really have a top weapon. Give me the Broncos. Then we go to Kansas City where they host my Texans. I'm sorry, but this just screams absolutely just devastation for my Texans. Give me the Chiefs, unfortunately. We go to Baltimore where Baltimore gets their revenge on the Steelers. A rematch from a few weeks ago there in Pittsburgh. Then we go to Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr., his time has arrived. Former first round pick this year. Give me the Falcons on fire. Or have a great game at home. We go to Chicago where they host the Lions. They're a little bit on the upset alert there, but I'm going to pick it safe here. Give me the Lions to scrape a victory late there. I don't really think a touchdown gets scored there. Anyways, we go to Cincinnati there where they host the Browns. Joe Burrow's on fire. Jamar, they leave off where they picked up. They're on a playoff hunt to that final playoff spot. They need a win. Give me the Bengals. We go to Indianapolis. They beat the Titans. We go to New York where it's a shootout against the Rams. But in the end, I feel like the Rams still take it, but don't underestimate those Jets. They are getting scrappy there. We go to Washington where the Eagles are also on upset alert, but I'm going to pick it safe. Give me those Philadelphia Eagles. We go to Carolina where the Cardinals, I believe, are on upset alert, but I'm going to pick it safe this whole week. Give me the Cardinals to win in Carolina. Then we go to Seattle where they host the Vikings. Give me the Vikings to go on Seattle and get a dominant win there. Sam Darnold stays hot there. We go to Buffalo where they dominate New England. We go to Vegas where the battle of, this is like the toilet bowl here. And give me the Jaguars to escape with the victory. We go to Miami. Mike McDaniels against his former team. Give me the Dolphins. They need to win. San Francisco struggling. Sunday Night Football. Dallas hosts Tampa Bay. Give me the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield staying on fire. And then lastly, Green Bay hosts New Orleans. Give me the Packers there.
All right, you got 155. We got some differing takes for sure. But let's dive into the first game of the week. That Thursday Night Football game. Obviously, it's a divisional matchup. Both teams are currently in the playoff. Playoff picture. I think both would make it today if it were to start. But yeah, two teams that are coming off different types of weeks, and obviously we picked differently. What are your thoughts though with this game? A good Broncos team that's riding hot versus a Chargers team that's kind of sliding.
Justin, little weekly by week, I am falling in love with this Denver Broncos team. Justin, I want to give my apologies to this Broncos team. I had them picking in the top 3 of this next year's draft. I don't even remember that. I was like, I got the Giants and the Raiders right? I was like, the Giants and the Raiders are going to be there for sure. And the Broncos are going to be right behind them picking a wide receiver. And it's like, wow, they proved me wrong there. Excited what's going to be going on for Denver. And you know what? They're going to be Kansas City's biggest threat in the future, not the Chargers, which is very interesting there. That defense in Denver is getting hot. They are a wide receiver away. And Justin, man, I would have just loved if the Chargers drafted Malik Neighbors. They went with Joe Alt there, who I don't think he's making a big, is Joe Alt, right? It was Joe Alt. I don't think it's making a big difference there because Herbert's still getting sacked. He still hasn't had much time to throw the football there. And I mean, Justin Herbert, I think in a couple years, he is going to be an MVP candidate because he's still doing good with, Ladd McConkey on one leg and Quinton Johnson with one hand. And it's just, and the tight end situation is just not the most impressive there. Probably literally one of the worst in the NFL, literally with tight ends there. And so how I see this matchup is that what I saw last week between the Chargers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I mean, the Buccaneers, yes, they're a good team, but the Chargers getting absolutely smacked at home, Wally Mop there. I mean, they let Mike Evans cook them up, and Cortland Sutton is having a great season too, so he potentially can have a great game there. No weather conditions to be worried about at SoFi. And it's just like the Broncos, they're really good with their front seven, and the Chargers just they're having trouble running the football there. Like I had some high hopes last week for Gus Edwards, and he was a no-show there. They're really missing J.K. Dobbins. They're really missing a weapon. I mean, they need a top weapon so bad. I think that's what ultimately it comes down to. I think that Sean Payton's going to be able to just blitz Herbert the whole time. He's not scared of Quinton Johnston and not really scared of, Will Dissly, catching passes there. Ladd McConkey's good, but I don't know if he's good enough to beat Surtain one-on-one there. So that's why for me, I'm going to go with the Broncos. They're hot. They need a victory. Their defense is playing good. I like Bo Nix now, not to mention the last time they played, I think this was like week 2 or week 3, Justin. And pretty much, I think Bo Nix hadn't really gotten to this rhythm yet, right? He hadn't gotten to his stride yet. He was still a rookie, making rookie moves, not rookie mistakes, but just rookie errors, right? And I feel like now he's in his stride. Sean Payton he's now figured out how to use his team to the best of their ability. And you know what? That's why now I think that they split the season series, and that's why I have the Broncos winning.
Yeah, I completely see that pathway for the Broncos to win. I think why I go with the Chargers is really due to coaching in a similar situation maybe last year with, Brandon Staley. I'd be like, yeah, they're going to falter and fall out of the playoffs. But I think that, they're better coached now, and they're right on the edge, 7th seed in the playoffs. So they need this win to kind of keep in the fight. And I just think, the Broncos, yes, they did win, and it ended up being a very, very convincing victory. But that game could have been very different. It could have been 20-7 instead. With the Taylor fumble, it became Broncos ball, and they didn't let the Colts score again, and they only scored 24 unanswered points. I don't know if that were to be a touchdown, what that game would have unfolded to be. I think even more shocking was that Chargers lost though last week. I thought, hey, I think they were in the lead too at one point, like 17-10, and then things just fell apart. But I completely agree. They don't have an identity. They used to be, run, 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 throw when we need to, but now they don't really have a capable rushing attack. So they have to throw, but they just don't have a lot of great weapons. I feel like I'm kind of convincing myself to the Denver way, but I just think that I'm gonna rely on what Jim Harbaugh can do, and that's why I have the Chargers winning to keep the division interesting as well. Another game that we definitely need to discuss is which was the one? I think I wanted to talk. Yes, we can talk about Kansas City, Houston. I think we both picked Kansas City for this game, but I think it's going to be a better fight than we think, and I think that even though the Chiefs are pretty tough against the run, I think this is a game Joe Mixon takes advantage of.
Yeah, Justin. With Patrick Mahomes, first of all, you can't. I sound like Chris Collinsworth, but with Patrick Mahomes, you can't underestimate him with any injury, man. I mean, not to mention, Justin, this defense is like one of the more like sneakiest defenses I've ever seen. They're the reigning Super Bowl champions, the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. It's like their defense isn't the Legion of Boom. They're not the 2015 no-fly zone Broncos. They're just like they just get stops. Like it's amazing. It's like Kansas City is gonna get their stop here, and they get the stop. It's like you pass it on first down, they get it batted down, they force an incompletion, and then it's like, or if you try to run it on the first 2 downs, they rather let you get a 1 or 2 yard gain, or they stop you for a 2 yard loss. And then it's like it all comes down to a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, like at worst 3rd and 6. And it's like they get that extra pressure where it's like your quarterback has got to run out the pocket. And at that point, they're screwed because maybe they get a holding on the offense, or it's like the quarterback has to throw it out of the pocket and out of bounds, or the quarterback does find a receiver and they just butterfingers it. And it's like a reoccurring thing every single time I watch the Chiefs play. And it happens more so in Arrowhead. So it's like, and not only that, with the Texans, my beloved Houston Dewey Nation, I am one of the biggest Texans fan. I've been through thick and thin, mainly thin, Justin as well, with our Houston Texans. And it's like, we've seen this before where it's like we go to Kansas City and it's like we haven't gotten a win. I'm looking at the history with Kansas City. I want to look back real quick, 10 years ago, kind of, it was 11, where Case Keenum got his first start in Kansas City. He was off a hot kind of performance the week before, and you know what? He didn't really do so good there. I think he threw a touchdown to Hopkins, and then a couple years later, we went with Deshaun Watson in Kansas City and got a come from behind victory, which was awesome. That was in the Mahomes era. And then we played them in the playoffs, I believe, that year, and that was the 24-point lead. We literally surrendered that, and I think they went on like a if I'm not mistaken, it was like a 51 to like 7 run.
Yeah.
Unbelievable there. And that was just literally the last time the Texans were relevant up until last year. And so we played the Chiefs a couple times at home since then. I remember the wild card matchup in 2015 where we were shut out. And then a couple years ago, en route to Mahomes' second Super Bowl victory, it was this time of year where Mahomes came down to Houston, and we had Davis Mills with maybe it was Coley or Lovie Smith at head coach. I think Jared McKinnon had a pretty good game there. And so now with this, it's interesting. This is the first time, our franchise quarterback CJ Stroud is going to be matched up with their franchise quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. But that offensive line is terrible, Justin. They're as soft as ice cream. And it's literally concerning when you got to block Chris Jones and Karlaftis. I mean, this guy, George Karlaftis, I think his name is literally one of the most underrated defensive players in the league, probably in history. No one talks about him. I think he's number 56, an ultimate run stopper. a guy that gets you tackles for loss. He, in some ways, is the head of that defense, and not to mention a reunion against Justin Reed. And so, I'm very concerned for this matchup.
Yeah, I completely see it. The Texans have been known kind of in the whole history of the franchise to not step up in big games. Hopefully they can change the narrative, but I also don't really see it happening. I think one more game, or at least two that we can kind of talk about really quickly that we have differing takes on is Seattle, Minnesota, and Miami and San Francisco. I think the Miami-San Francisco game, the loser's probably done for the year, right? I know they're both on the edge. They're in that 8-9 seed in their conference, but like if this game's a loss, you might have to wrap things up. And did you see the Tyreek Hill tweet saying it might be time for me to go or something like that? This could
Wow.
be the end of Tyreek Hill in the NFL. And then with the Seattle game, we saw Seattle kind of falter and do poorly against Green Bay, and then we saw Minnesota kind of handle business against the Bears. What do you think on both of these games?
So first of all, for the San Francisco-Miami game, there's a chance that this cannot be a shootout just because how familiar these head coaches are with each other. A couple years ago, Mike McDaniels was kind of behind that offense that before McCaffrey, it was Deebo Samuel who had that breakout final 7 games of the year, was winning leagues. And he was scoring touchdowns out of the backfield as a running back, scoring touchdowns as I think a punt return. He had a couple punt return touchdowns back when he was a punt return. And obviously, he was getting receiving touchdowns. And I remember Mike McDaniels was getting head coach recognition that this time 3 years ago. And I remember he had a press conference and he was the infamous, Debo, and people were like, wow, who's this guy? Mike McDaniels. He's very charismatic. And that's what got him the job in Miami. And so, and now in Miami, you mentioned Tyreek Hill is the end. And for those of you in Due Nation who are not aware, Tyreek Hill did have a tweet earlier earlier today, really, that was like he could and today. But if you remember, like a year or two ago, he did mention like once he's done with his Miami contract, he's retiring. So that's why Due Nation Justin was like the end of Tyreek Hill. Which, man, Justin, you got to think about it this way: Kansas City's won back-to-back Super Bowls. They haven't lost a playoff game since that Cincinnati loss with Tyreek Hill, his final game. And it's like, wow, man, if Tyreek Hill was still in Kansas City, man. Would Travis Kelce be on an unstoppable pace right now? Would the Chiefs be possibly 16-0? I mean, they probably still would have gotten Hollywood. They probably still would have gotten Xavier Worthy, and with Hopkins there. I mean, maybe they don't make the trade for Hopkins, but all these, getting Hollywood, they were like cheap buys. So it's not like they had to give up. So man, could you imagine that offensive set there, adding Tyreek Hill, who is, he had a pretty disappointing week, and I know a lot of out there in Due Nation lost because of that. But with this matchup there, these are the matchup between the two most disappointing offenses in the league this year. Obviously, A-Chain's having a good year. But, in some ways, Miami's been very disappointing, especially the first part of the year. I know Tua missed. But this could be a defensive showdown there. So I kind of feel like with Miami, they get the better edge there. I think Purdy's on a little bit of a cold streak. And on the other side, the other matchup there with Seattle and Minnesota, I just really love Darnold right now. I think he's on he's on a hot rod right now. Against Chicago Monday night, he looked really good. He's looked really good, and there's some questions that Minnesota is going to have to answer in the offseason. And for me, I think that they should go another year with Darnold, get the rookie just a year to catch up, learn the playbook while being healthy with McCarthy there. So I like Sam Darnold. He's hot right now. You got the best receiver in football. You got Addison, who's hot. By the way, Hawkinson has been now back for a month and a half, so he's going to start getting hot there. And so this offense is taking off a little bit now. Their defense is playing good, so that's why I like Minnesota there. Not to mention that Geno is playing hurt there. I don't think he's 100%. Even if they were to throw in Sam Howell there, that is a disaster. Just like Green Bay was able to take advantage of it on Sunday night, I think Minnesota would be able to replicate the same thing. So to me, that's why I take Minnesota in that matchup.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. I was getting close to switching it while we were talking about the rapid picks. It's just, I don't know. I think that this is also Seattle's last stand. They are on, the pressure's on their back kind of thing. They're in the 7th seed. The Rams have jumped them now in the division, and I think that the Rams was kind of not coast, but they're going to make their way to win the division.
Yeah.
and that leaves Seattle with needing a wild card spot. And so they're gonna try to get that at home in front of their 12th man. I can see the Vikings though trying to go all at it too, because as you said, you might see a Detroit on upset alert thing, and if Minnesota were to win and Detroit to lose, Minnesota will jump Detroit in the NFC North because now they have 2 losses each. So that is an interesting storyline if Minnesota is to win, and then maybe Caleb and the Bears can pull something off. But I'm excited for these games. I think there's going to be. I think both of those games might be a little less scoring than we might anticipate, as you were saying. I think JSN and then I think like the wide receivers on both sides in that first game, Seattle and Minnesota, are going to do well. As for the running backs, maybe not so much. And then on that Miami side, I could kind of see like some deja vu of what the Dolphins were a part of last week with the Texans. Like I think it might be kind of close, but Tua's not going to be able to pull it out, kind of thing. But yes, Dwayne Nation, those are our game predictions for Week 16 of the NFL season. Stay tuned for the rest of our content this week. We're really excited to put that all out. But yes, like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those good things to help Dwayne Sports keep growing, so we can keep doing this for you guys. But yes, thank you guys for listening, and Janoah, send us out.
Yo, Dewey Nation, this was our rapid picks of the week. Go ahead and check us out on TikTok. We have a ton of stuff coming out there with fantasy playoffs, with college football playoffs, and not to mention the NFL playoffs are just around the corner there. Very excited to see who will be at Super Bowl 59 this year. I mean, Justin and I are so excited to cover all NFL playoffs. I mean, we're going to have a deep dive in there, so go ahead and check us out. Thank you for watching, you guys. We love you guys. And as always, peace.